Now, this is a tip for everyone that anyone can implement. It's really simple, and it's a strategy that a lot of the best pros use that you probably haven't been aware of. And it's something that's really simple. It's nothing groundbreaking, but kind of the philosophy behind it, or kind of the thought process behind the strategy is, so if you've played my head-to-head online, you know how prominent, how effective, how OD sometimes the crossing routes are, all that. And even if you have the 30-yard zone drops up, they still get over the 30-yard zone drops, and that can be really frustrating. So what a lot of people do, this is something I've always liked to do, is you want to user the best route on the field, and then allocate your resources, your CPU defenders, adjust them to guard, the routes that are much simpler to defend, such as like drags, slants, curls. Again, it's really easy for the CPU zones to guard that route. And I always tell people from an offensive perspective, get crossing routes in your game, best route in the game. They beat every CPU zone in the game. So from a defensive perspective, instead of relying on our zones to play, the crossing route, it's a route that we should use ourselves, because again, the crossing route is just far and away the best route in the game. So, and the routes below that, again, the corner routes are really good, but there's really not that many great routes in Madden. So it's best, to let your CPU guard the simpler routes, the routes that aren't nearly as effective, and go and guard the routes that beat all the zones, that beat your man coverage, such as the crossing route. So that's what we're going to do here. So kind of the philosophy is, you're just looking to run deep with whatever route, and then with your CPU zones, again, I'm just going to be in a cover 6. So we just have 2 hooks underneath, to guard all the underneath drags, all the slants, all the curls, all the hitches, all that. Then all we're worried about is running deep. And again, we don't got our cloud flats or purple set to anything. You can actually, I would have your hook set to 5 or your purple set to 5, just so, again, anytime you don't have any zone drops on, your guys will match. So you do want to have zone drops on, but again, you don't have to set any zone drops deep. Again, it can just be like 10-yard cloud flats or 5-yard purples. Because again, we're just looking to guard the underneath with our CPU, and then run deep with the routes that are really difficult to defend, such as the crossing routes. Again, nothing super groundbreaking, but a super effective strategy that top tier players use that many do not recognize. So again, we just have our hooks underneath to guard all the underneath, all the drags, all the running back wheels, all the hitches underneath. And then with our user, all we got to do is run deep. So any coverage really where you have, at least 2 hook zones underneath. Because again, then it'll be difficult to get those drags and hitches in. And again, I would recommend setting your hooks to 5, if they're really killing you with those underneath drags and hitches. Then just make sure you have a coverage that can't get bombed deep. So I know that versus tight, opposite the running back, that's where the skinny post can kill you. So you want to have that inside quarter opposite the bomb versus tight, for example. So we're playing, don't get bombed defense, and protecting the underneath with their CPU zones, and then running deep with their user to defend any crossers or corners. This is actually a tactic I did in Madden 18 in a tournament I made a super deep run in. The zones were so bad. Like in this game, like people always tell me like, oh, Manu, I can't get a stop. What the hell do I do on defense? I'm like, hey man, you're just like everybody else in this game. I always tell people it's bend but don't break, and don't be surprised if someone is scoring on you almost every single drive. Again, this is the worst defense has ever been in general in Madden, so you're not alone on that. But again, there still are some tactics to get us those 1 or 2 stops in the game that we got to be utilizing, and this is one of those tactics that, it can make someone think a little bit on offense, and it can get you that stop that you need. So again, 2 hooks underneath, again, maybe 5-yard purples. Again, it's not important the zone drop, it's just about having your CPU zones underneath. Just play the underneath, so 5, 10s, that's fine. Yeah, and just running deep with your user. So again, I'm sure you guys have seen people do this a lot in tight. So again, something like this. And again, if they're really killing you with those underneath hitches, I love to put my hooks on 5 and then just run deep with that crosser.